Hey friends, and welcome to the Happy Hour with Jamie Ivey podcast. I'm your host, Jamie, and I'm so happy that you're here. Every week I invite a girlfriend to join me on the show, and we chat about the big things in life, the little things in life, and everything in between. Okay, guys, I want to thank our first sponsor for today's show, and that is Z Supply. You know, whether you're hosting a holiday dinner or simply spending time with friends, I couldn't be more thankful for my Z Supply essentials. Z Supply is an everyday basics brand that carries comfortably chic clothing for the busy holidays ahead. I personally love the Z Supply shimmer tees for Thanksgiving and their super soft lounging sets for everything casual. I have these pants that I cannot take off, and their t-shirts, they really can be dressed up or dressed down. I love them. And right now, for my listeners at the Happy Hour, that's you, Z Supply is offering 10% off plus free shipping on your first order with the promo code 10FREE. There will also be special holiday exclusives only available on their site. So once again, you guys, you get 10% off plus free shipping on your first order with promo code 10FREE. Go ahead and go shopping over at zsupply.com. All right, friends, you are listening to episode number 168, and my guest is Abbie Kampman. Abbie shares her story today that includes a very tragic event that happened to her when she was 13 years old. Abbie has just now started sharing her story publicly, and I'm over the moon proud of her. Here's what she says about the first time that she shared her story with a friend.
You have a beautiful story, and God's going to use it. And I just remember feeling so much like the burden just was taken off of me because someone listened, and like it was almost like she said me too, you know, like she was. And I'm reading your story right now, Jamie. I'm reading your book, and you have that same story. Yes, you talk about this in your book. I just think we all need someone that's our me too, like our original me too. And I just remember after that, I felt like, okay, God's given me this to share with others so that they don't feel like I did, you know?
You know, friends, I always say the stories change the world. And when you listen to Abbie's story today, it might not be your story, but you will find commonality in her fears and her journey and what she has walked through with sharing her story out loud with people around her. Abbie's story is hard, but friends, you're going to be so moved by her retelling the events that happened 18 years ago. And then what happens this past summer is just plain crazy and wonderful all in one. Abbie's encouragement towards anyone that might be listening and struggling through your faith because of something hard that's happened or tragic that's happened. This show's for you. She's a great encourager in that. I do want to say that this show might not be suitable for children based on the tragic event that Abbie endured. So if you have little ears, you might want to listen another time. Hey friends, before we get to Abbie and my conversation, I want to tell you about our Happy Hour Facebook group. It's brand new, and I don't know why I haven't done this in forever because I love talking about the shows after they air. So we get to do that. Over in that group, we can chat about all the shows. You can ask questions. Maybe I'll even ask some of the guests to come chime in there the week after they're on the show. You can find that Facebook group by going to jamieivey.com/Happy Hour Facebook. Don't worry if you forget, we'll put it in the show notes. All right, my friends, here is my conversation with Abbie Kampman. Hey, Abbie, welcome to the Happy Hour.
Thanks, Jamie.
I get a lot of emails and people sharing their stories with me and a lot of people suggesting, hey, you should have this person on the show because here's their story. And you sent me an email.
I did.
Yes. And you laid it all out there.
I did.
You shared your whole story and I was like, holy cow. Yeah. I need to talk to this girl. We also have commonality, like your sister-in-law and brother-in-law.
Awesome.
They are awesome. And they also live in Austin, and he's on staff at the Austin Stone where my husband's on staff as well. Yeah. So we have that connection. But I remember reading your story and just thinking, man, this girl, but you're not a girl, you're a woman. This woman has been through a lot in her lifetime. Yeah. And she's still standing and she's still giving God glory.
Yes, absolutely.
I think those are like the mark of the Christian faith, right?
Yeah.
That everything comes at you and you're still standing and you still give God glory. So I want to go back and I want to just jump in. All right. So this is going to be a fun episode, and fun by the means of like, I love stories. I think I say all the time, stories change the world. And
yes, they do.
Your story, a lot of people are going to be like, that's not my life, but they're going to relate.
Yeah.
That's the thing about stories.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I want to jump all the way back. You told me that you grew up in a home where your mom was an alcoholic.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And you may know this, and my listeners may know this as well, that I get the huge privilege of volunteering at our local jail.
Yes.
Every week.
I love that.
And I have probably been there 2 years. I've maybe met 5 women who aren't struggle with addiction.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's a real problem with women who are incarcerated, and a lot of them have kids.
Yeah.
And this addiction is like taking so much from them.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm going to hear from you what it took from you, but I listen to these women and they hate it. They're broken about it. You grew up with a mom who was an alcoholic.
I did.
What was that like?
You know, it's kind of all I ever knew. Her and my dad, they were a teen relationship and got pregnant. My mom was 19 and she had struggled with it in high school, but kind of the typical like high school drinking scene. But I think it really just started to take off as a problem after she met my dad. And my dad's a wonderful man. I mean, he's great. And he really wanted to build a family and make that happen. But she kind of was still kind of stuck in the high school scene type of a thing. And really just wanted to do that regularly. And my dad was just not okay with it now that they had a daughter.
Which was you?
Which was me, yes. And unfortunately, my mom found a man who kind of supported that and had an affair, which ended up, they got a divorce. My parents did when I was about 3 or 4. I can't remember, but I lived with my mom growing up. They decided that I would live with her. They were still good friends, but and my dad would see me every other weekend, just a wonderful man. But
at this point in your mom's life, when you're 3 and your parents get a divorce, is she an alcoholic? Is she an alcoholic?
She is an
She's
alcoholic,
addicted?
yes,
She's
100%.
Is this something that she acknowledges or that people around her acknowledged?
People around her for sure.
But not her.
But I don't think she saw it as an issue quite yet. Yeah. So I grew up at 4 or 5 years old. I knew the difference between Bud Light and Miller Lite. I could get that for her. Throughout elementary school, she wouldn't show up to things, you know, kind of, I think she had a really rough childhood. A lot of difficult things took place. And I think just her confidence level wasn't up where it should be. And I think drinking helped her relax. It helped her feel confident. And she always felt like she needed a drink before she could do conferences or have birthday parties where other people were going to be there. So every birthday party, every conference, everything like that, that's all I remember was her being a little bit drunk or a little bit not quite right. So it's kind of my normal.
When you were young, did you realize that this wasn't normal, or did you think that this was normal? It's just how mom is. Did you realize that other kids' parents maybe weren't needing this alcohol as a crutch?
Sure. In elementary school, I think I started to see it about 2nd or 3rd grade when I would stay at other people's houses at night, or I was in brownies and Girl Scouts and things like that. And I would spend time with other families. And I kind of realized, you know, they're married and they have dinner together and the mom seems really involved and asks about her day and is, you know, just a lot of things like that. My mom never had dinner with us, you know, just little things like that what make kind of a quote unquote normal family.
Yeah.
That wasn't really something that I had. I think the most normal situation I would experience is when I would visit my dad, and he got married to my stepmom, who's wonderful, and they kind of had a stable relationship. And actually my stepmom ended up leading my dad to Christ, which later, that's how I started to get involved in church a little bit, was through her influence. But yeah.
And then did you have siblings?
I did. So my mom got remarried and my dad got remarried, both to wonderful people. My mom always scored great guys. And both of them with their new spouse had 2 daughters. So I had 4 sisters.
So you're growing up living predominantly with your mom, your dad every other weekend. Your mom is a functioning alcoholic, would you say? Or is she functioning?
Functioning.
Okay.
Yeah, when she needed to. Yes. Yeah.
This is so random, but last night I couldn't fall asleep because Aaron's out of town. I have a hard time falling asleep when Aaron's out of town. Well, not normally. It's a new thing for me, but whatever. So I turned on Hulu, and they have movies that you can watch. And there was an oldie but a goodie that I used to watch all the time. Have you ever seen When a Man Loves a Woman?
No, but that is so funny because my grandpa, my mom's father, who's one of my favorite people in the world, he keeps telling me, he's like, you have to watch this movie now that you're an adult because it will explain so much.
Oh gosh, that just gave me chills because it is. She is an alcoholic.
Yes.
And she's quote unquote functioning. I mean, you do need to go watch the movie. I won't give it away.
Okay.
But it's her alcoholism is killing her marriage, her family, everything.
So you watched that last night?
I watched until I fell asleep, 30 minutes. I put the timer on. I saw the first 30 minutes.
Oh, I need to watch it now. All right.
But you should watch it. But
Yes.
it's a mom, an alcoholic. I have a close friend who is an alcoholic. She's not, what do you call it when she says I'm always an alcoholic, but she doesn't drink. She's sober.
Dry.
She's sober for like 9 years.
Yes.
And when she teaches at the jail about addiction, man, it's just, I look at her and I'm hearing your story, talk about your mom, and I realize that addiction, it doesn't see class, it doesn't see color, it doesn't see race, it doesn't see socioeconomics. It is crazy. And I had a conversation with a girlfriend last night, and she said that one of her clients is getting a divorce because his wife is an alcoholic, and it's just ruining.
Yeah.
So you grew up in this kind of addiction family. When your mom remarried, you said she always picked good guys.
Yeah.
How did that alter your family life at home?
Well, I was pretty young. I was about 7 when they got married. And I don't know. It was good. I knew that he was good for her, and I felt like he was a good guy. And so it was fine. Yeah,
Was he a drinker?
At first, yes. Just like my dad was at first. But then I think once he started to see that it was a pretty big problem, my stepdad pulled back and really focused on mom and trying to help her. And he was the one who, with my mom's family's guidance, kind of put her into treatment programs and really tried to help encourage her to, she went back to school for nursing and to do different things like that to maybe focus her efforts a little bit more towards healing. And, but again, it was never her choice. It was other people kind of urging her to do it. And I think she always felt like people were forcing her to do it. She still didn't think she had a problem.
Yeah. Which, don't you think, like, until you can like self-identify,
Totally.
it's like,
Yeah.
people can drop you off at rehab 1,000 times, right?
Yes.
I mean, I wouldn't have like an addiction to alcohol problem, praise God. But there's probably been other things in my life that until I realized it, people could tell me every day, So tell me about, you get into like middle school, you enter 6th grade, and your mom is still kind of going out of control, self-destructing. What unfolds over the next couple of months?
So it was actually end of 5th grade. We moved to a house out of an apartment building. And that's when things started to really go downhill. It was kind of out in the country, and that was just a bigger area for her to hide things. She also got into cocaine pretty heavily, which I wasn't as familiar with. I was more kind of familiar with the drinking. So the cocaine was, I learned more about that after the fact. But she started selling her body for drugs.
Okay, let's stop right here because this is a lot.
It is a lot.
It is a lot. So your mom is like, everyone starts out like casual drinker, alcoholic. Yeah. Now you say she's getting into cocaine. This is going to sound like an idiot statement right here. No. But how does one just go out and get into cocaine?
Honestly, I have no idea. We think a lot of times, this is really hard, but when she was put into treatment, she would meet people there who were like her, but who also struggled. And I think that's where she met a lot of people that she fell back through those relationships.
Yeah. So your mom gets into cocaine, and then she starts selling her body. You're in 5th grade.
Yeah.
Do you know
5th grade,
the extent of what's happening?
I don't.
Okay.
No, my stepdad.
Does he know the extent of what's happening?
I believe, yes.
Okay.
But he hid a lot of it from
you
me.
girls.
Made sure that we didn't, because at the time I was in 6th grade, my sisters were, maybe like 5 and 3.
Little.
Yeah. Maybe even younger than that, actually. But yeah, we moved to a house, and that's when it started to get pretty bad. And I just remember laying in bed one night, and I didn't know God at this point. I didn't know the Lord. But I just remember laying there praying and just saying, if there is a God, like it was so funny. I said, there are 3 things. I want a happy family. I want to feel joy. And I really want a window seat. Like I just really, that was one of my childhood dreams, was I always thought a happy family has, if I'm a girl in a happy family, I'd have a window seat, and, I'd be able to sit in it and read. That was just my idea of a happy home. And
like a little nook in your house with a window.
Yeah, I was a reader. And so that was my constant prayer. And there was just one night that it got really hard, and I could hear them fighting, and my mom had been missing for a few days, and she came in, and I think I was just weeping, saying, Lord, I can't do this anymore. Like, this is really hard. And I don't feel like this is normal for a child to have to go through this. And it was after that my stepdad, another intervention with my grandpa and my mom's sister. They put her in treatment. Again, it was a pretty hardcore program. And my aunt talked to my stepdad and said, you really need to probably leave her at this point, separate from her, because she's going to drive with the girls in the car. Like, I don't feel like they're safe at this point if she gets out and this continues. And so he had separated from her while she was in treatment.
And so he had all the kids.
He had my 2 sisters. And I moved in with my dad.
When she went to treatment?
My biological father, who lived about an hour away. And it was really from that point on that everything just spiraled downward. She, in treatment, met a man who was not the best guy. And he didn't want to be there either. And they escaped treatment together.
Oh, like a little runaway now.
Yeah. And I'm not sure. This is where it gets fuzzy.
Did you know that at the time, or you know that now?
I knew that at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
So basically, everyone around is saying, this path is not, this is destructive.
Yeah.
This is not going to end well. You need to get your girls and get out.
Yeah.
How did you I have a 4th grade daughter and I have 6th grade boys, you know, like, how did you feel about your mom? Because that's where it's always hard in these situations because it's your mom, you know, and a lot of times kids feel this confliction of, I love my mom. I hate when she's happening. Is that, what did that feel like for you?
Yeah. And I hid a lot of it from my dad, my biological dad, because I was just afraid that he would take me away. And I loved her, but also I had friends and a school that I loved. And I struggled with that a lot. I watched This Is Us. Do you watch This Is Us?
Oh, I'm way behind, but yes.
Oh, okay. So
spoiler alert, guys.
Okay,
here we go. It's okay. You can tell it.
The newer episodes, Randall, they're fostering a girl whose mother is addicted. And I cry every episode because you see the relationship there where this girl's been in such a broken home, but yet she always talks about her mom and she talks about her lovingly, but also Randall and his wife, I'm dropping her name, but always talk about, why isn't she happy here? She has a good place here. And, but she just keeps going back to like her mom and her love for her mom. And I can relate with that 100%.
Yeah.
Because
I have a friend who, they have adopted a daughter through foster care. Same thing.
Yeah.
Her mom was destructive.
Yeah.
Drugs. From adult eyes in the outside world, not a good parent.
Yeah.
That's the reason she ended up in foster care. And, and she loves her mom. She talks about her mom. And I think that's hard sometimes when you mention that situation is as parents, we want to be like, no, your mom's bad. Like, she's awful.
Right.
But I think that we can somehow maybe foster, you love your mom. And as a 5th grader, you did love your mom. Yeah. And you don't have the mindset as an adult like you do now to look back and be like, she was a really bad mom,
Yeah.
But in the moment, So it's interesting about how kids can carry that weight too.
Yeah. It's sad too, because when she was a good mom, she's a really good mom, Like she had a Halloween party for me in 6th grade. This was right when it was kind of getting bad, but she was doing like back handsprings as a 32-year-old woman. It's just, she was fun and she was happy and joyful. It's just, if she would have recognized her strengths, I think that would have helped her. But,
So your mom, escapes treatment.
She does.
Which this is like a movie, unfortunately. She escapes treatment with this guy. Because they've told you. Did she come home? Was she with this guy?
She was with him. This is where I don't know a lot of the details on how they got an apartment together. This was actually between 7th and 8th grade at this point. So I had moved in with my dad, and she wanted me to come visit her every other weekend and see her. And
did she have your sisters?
No, my stepdad actually. That's part of the story. Is he would not let my sisters be with her unless I was there because I was quite a bit older than them, and I knew when she was to the point where she could not drive or be responsible. And it's a lot of responsibility for an 8th grader. It is a lot of responsibility, but, I understand it. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. There had been times where she wanted to leave and have us get in the car, and I said, no, we're not leaving.
And she respected that?
I had to fight her off a little bit, but yeah.
That's a lot of wisdom and responsibility for an 8th grader, but
yeah,
it's crazy. Okay. So she's in the apartment.
Yeah.
You would go visit and they were making a life together, her and her
trying to,
friend.
I think it was, it was strange. It was just all strange. And he was always very nice to me, but I could tell, there was some things there that were red flags too. She broke her ankle mysteriously, and I don't want to say that he did that, but there were a lot of red flags that I was not sure how the relationship was going.
So it could have been a destructive relationship as well.
Yes, there was also a 911 call on file that she had called 911, and once the police got to the door, they heard a scuffle inside, and they knocked the door down. But mom said, "Nope, we're fine, we're good, everything's fine." So I'm not sure if there was abuse there.
Okay, so what happened next?
Yeah. So somewhere between 8th and 9th grade, I was getting involved in sports and activities and things like that. So I wasn't visiting as often. And there was one weekend at the middle of summer that I was going to nanny for a family friend. They were going on vacation and I was going to go with them. And I told my mom I wouldn't be there that weekend because I was going to nanny, but she didn't tell my stepdad and I didn't tell my stepdad. And unfortunately, I left for that trip and my stepdad dropped the girls off. And I don't know if mom told my stepdad that I was coming and I would be there just so that he would drop them off.
Because he clearly knew you weren't there when he dropped them off.
Right. Yeah. Yes. So he dropped them off. They, from what we know now, they spent the day together with some other friends. Mom drank a little bit during the day, but not a ton. And then Todd is the man that was her boyfriend at the time. He came home and really wanted her to go to a party with him. And what I've learned now after the fact is she said no, she didn't want to go because he was already drunk. But it sounds like he was kind of forceful about them going. And so she took the girls and they got in the car and went to a work party for Todd's work.
So like a kid appropriate party or did she kind of take them along?
Probably not, but she couldn't leave them at home. So she did end up taking them. They ended up drinking quite a bit there and they got back in the car to go home.
All four of them?
All four of them. At this point, Todd had been drinking all day long. I mean, he was a chronic drinker, had probably started first thing in the morning and had been drinking all day. So they got in the car, turned down the wrong way, going down an interstate. So they were going northbound in a southbound lane for a few miles.
And this is what time of day?
Evening.
Okay.
June 19th. Yep, it was summer evening.
Is it dark?
Nope. Okay. It was about 7:00, so it was still light out. A man named Josh saw them driving the wrong way. He saw there were kids in the car, so he drove alongside them, trying to get them to turn around. Yes.
Wow.
He did everything that he possibly could. It must have been about 5 or so miles that they were going the wrong direction at about 65 to 70 miles per hour.
You know, you read stories like this and you hear about people driving the wrong way on a highway. And I think about that sometimes when I'm on the freeway and I'm just like, you have to be completely
focused.
But like to do that, you would have to be completely unaware of your surroundings.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, we're talking completely unaware.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So they're driving for 5 miles the wrong way.
Yes.
Girls are in the backseat.
Girls are in the backseat. Nobody's buckled. Josh said he saw the girls bouncing around. That's how he knew they weren't buckled.
Did he say anything about they were probably completely unaware?
They were. Yeah. My mom was looking straight ahead. Todd was smoking a cigarette.
Your mom was driving?
My mom's not driving. My mom was passenger.
Okay.
They were both completely drunk though, so I do put my mom at fault here. But they ended up crashing head on into another vehicle. Everyone in my mom's car died immediately. One of my sisters was thrown from the vehicle. One man in the other car died. He was a young newlywed. the 3 men were coming back from a fishing trip. It was kind of a little family trip. A father-in-law, the son-in-law, and a family friend. And the son-in-law died.
Was he driving?
He was driving, yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It makes me cry. I know. So
it makes me cry too.
So Josh, the man that's driving,
yeah,
sees this all happen.
Well, so he actually, this was before cell phones were.
I don't want to jump ahead.
Oh, okay.
Because I want to get there.
Okay.
let's because I led you too far. Let's do this. So this happens. The crash, the accident.
Yeah.
You're away.
I'm away.
Who told you? When did you find out?
So this happened on a Saturday night. I didn't find out till Monday.
You didn't find out till Monday?
No.
Because they didn't tell you?
I'm sorry, that's wrong. I found out Sunday afternoon. My dad, they wanted to tell me in person.
And you were away?
I was in Missouri.
Okay.
Yeah. So my dad drove to pick me up, and it was about, I think, like 6 hours away. So he wanted to tell me in person. And he and my stepmom drove to where I was and picked me up.
And they told you in the car?
They told me right when they got there. Yeah.
I can't even imagine an 8th grade girl who lost her mom that she's watched pretty much self-destruct her whole life.
Yeah.
And you lose your sisters.
That was unimaginable. Yeah. Well, yes, because when my dad got there to tell me, he walked in and I was just thrown off that he was there in the first place because I was supposed to be on vacation with this family. And he walked in and just the look on his face, I immediately just said, Mom's dead, isn't she?
That was the first thing you said?
First thing. Yeah, immediately. I just knew it.
It's like everyone was just kind of like, it feels like what you're telling me is everyone knew what was the end of this road.
That's where it was heading.
Destruction. Yeah. It was the first thing you said.
It was the first thing I said. But when I said that, my dad nodded and I just kind of sat down, but it took what felt like probably 5 more minutes of me just sitting there kind of processing. And I looked back up and my stepmom just looked at me and they were crying and I just knew there was more to it. I didn't know that. I thought that was it. But I can't remember who said it, but one of them said, no, there's more and it's really bad. And I just looked and I said, not Amanda and Samantha. And they said, yeah, they're gone. And so that I had not prepared for at all. And then immediately my mind thought, oh no, I didn't tell him I wouldn't be there. And it was immediately like, it's my fault.
You immediately thought that?
Immediately. Because I knew that I should have been there. And I knew it was probably a car accident right away.
And so did they tell you the story?
They did. They said it was a really bad car accident and then the details kind of came out as we drove home. But,
So you get home and your life is now completely changed forever. Your mom has been in an accident caused by her own destruction, basically, even though you said she wasn't driving. Your sisters are gone. When did you see your stepdad next?
I think immediately, either that night or the next day.
And what was that like?
Really hard. Yeah. Because he had separated from my mom to prevent this. Yeah. And I think he loved my mom.
Yeah.
He did. It's just he was really trying to protect his girls. I think he lost everything that he loved in one swoop. Yeah.
Did your stepdad ever bring up what you felt guilty about?
No. We've talked about it. He said it was not your fault. It was not your fault. But I think both of us feel like we could have done more. Yeah. Because he and I saw everything, we went through all of it together. So I feel a very strong connection with him.
Yeah. Looking back as, a 30-year-old woman, married and all your boys that you have, looking back on this story and that night and that feeling of you and your stepdad both feeling like, God, we saw it all, we could have done more. Have you reconciled that inside your heart?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
recently, or did it take a while or soon?
Recently.
Okay.
Yeah. It took a long time.
Yeah.
I didn't realize I was still holding on to
that.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What brought that out?
So this May, our church was going through some hard things, and anytime, usually once a year in the summer around the accident, I take out what I call the crash box, and it's just a box my aunt, my mom's sister, compiled with all the articles from the accident. And that was the time where a lot of news was still in papers. It wasn't online. It was in 1999. The accident happened. And so all of these articles, I'd read through them once a year, every year, and I have a good cry. And then I put it back up and just wait till the next year. And I pulled it out and was reading through it, some of the articles. And I don't know why it dawned on me this time, but some of the names that popped up in the articles, the Josh that was driving alongside the car, and the name of the man who died in the other vehicle, and even the state trooper that investigated the accident. And their names just popped out to me. And it was the first time it dawned on me, like, I have the internet. I could probably look these people up, or at least just see how they're doing, kind of like a stalking sort of a thing. But just to reassure myself, like, okay, they're doing okay. Like,
because when this happened in 1999 and you're 13,
13
years
14,
old,
yeah.
almost 14, you probably didn't, I'm assuming, because I have a 13-year-old, you probably didn't even think much about that there was another victim.
No,
I mean, everything
was so much.
Right. I mean, you're 13, you just lost your mom and your sisters. And so the idea that there's a whole nother family grieving through this. Yeah. Being older, and I want to get to what you did, knowing that there's another family, and you've probably talked to your dad and your stepdad about this journey that you've been on this year, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Did they ever, was there any conversation with the other family at all when this happened?
The time? Oh, yeah. There's a lot that went on. Not necessarily conversation with the other family of the man who died, but more my family tried to find Josh, the man who drove alongside the car. I could be wrong, but I think he was in the military. And so it was really hard to find him. There was some reason why they couldn't find him. There was more, I think my family focused more on trying to, when someone dies, you want to blame someone. And so finding the party that they were at and kind of asking the people there, why didn't you stop them? They were drunk, blaming Todd and his family and his dad, because he was with his dad all day drinking, Todd was. And just, you want to blame when, but it's funny because at the time, I think I just felt like it wasn't anybody's, you can't place blame. That's not gonna, it's going to make you feel better in the long run.
You felt that at 13?
I did. Yeah. I talked to my grandpa about it because I said, I always knew this could happen. I mean, it was just it was a slow progression, but I always knew it could happen. So I can't blame someone else for her choices,
Yeah.
I felt that in my heart. And I think I told my grandpa, but that was the only other person that I talked to.
So you grew up, you finished middle school, you finished high school, college, marriage, all these things.
Yeah.
And something severely traumatic happened at 13. And you endured a lot of trauma before then as well. I mean, let's just call it what it is.
Yeah.
You grew up with an alcoholic mom. Did you at the time, just stuff and stuff and stuff? Did you deal with it? And you said you weren't a believer.
Not when it happened.
Yeah.
No. Mm-mm. I had been going to church, but I wouldn't say that I had accepted Christ. No. I think I had grown up so crying so often that I had pretty much stopped crying by the time.
Kind of numb.
I was numb. Huh. Yeah. I had a lot of walls. And I think about how hard that was for my dad and my stepmom in those years following, because not only was I a teenager, but which
is hard in itself.
An introvert, and I was dealing with everything, and I just closed myself off. I did not want to talk to anyone. I felt shame, so much shame for my mom and what she did. And
you were ashamed of
I was ashamed of that. Yeah. I didn't tell a lot of my friends. We moved around just a little bit, and I just never shared my story because I was afraid of what other people would think about my mom and about she was responsible for the lives of other people, killing other people. So I think it was In high school, we moved to Texas for a year and a half, and my dad had found a church, and I was always in my room, closed off in my room, and he came in one day and he said, "You're going to youth group. Get whatever you want to wear, and I'm dropping you off, and I'll pick you up in 2 hours." And I was like, "I'm not going to youth group. Like, no way." And I put on an Iowa Hawkeyes sweatshirt because I'm from Iowa, and at the time Texas was so different, and I was just so lonely. And I walked in to youth group, and you've had Sarah Bessie on here. Her husband was our youth pastor at the time there, and he's this big, like, tall, like...
He's like a Nebraska guy.
Oh, he's awesome. And he's loud, and he's outgoing, and he saw me with my Iowa Hawkeye sweatshirt, and he probably said something really funny, like, Midwest is the best, but he just gave me a huge hug, and he said, "We're so glad you're here." And I think from then on, through those two, through Brian and Sarah, they kind of mentored me through that season. And Sarah was the very first person. She took me out for gyro in San Antonio for Greek food. And she turned to me and said, "What's your story?" And that was the very first time I ever felt freedom sharing. And I just shared everything with her. And I remember she looked at me at the end of it, and she was just crying. And she said, "This isn't your fault, right?" Like, she said, you have a beautiful story, and God's going to use it. And I just remember feeling so much, like the burden just was taken off of me because someone listened. And like, it was almost like she said, "Me too." Like she was, and I'm reading your story right now, Jamie. I'm reading your book, and you have that same story. Right? Yes, you talk about this in your book. I just think we all need someone that's our Me Too, like our original Me Too. And I just remember after that, I felt like, okay, God's given me this to share with others so that they don't feel like I did.
Yeah. And like, I say this so many times, man, like I already said it, stories change the world. And my story is not the same as yours, but it moves me. And I understand what that feels like to have something you don't want to say out loud. Mine was different, and yours was not even you, it was like your family. But it doesn't matter what it is. We have this where like, if I say this, I mean, not to like talk about my book, but the thing is, what if people knew? Like, if you only knew this part of my story, and what freedom it is when someone listens. It's like they're just offering you this like safe place, and they hold that safeness with you. Like, it's just beautiful. And
it is.
I remember I was mentored by an older woman as well. Her name was Amy, and I remember I told her my story, and she just listened, and she took it, and she didn't make me feel bad at all. And so you're in high school. Would you say that you became a Christ follower in high school? Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay. So you're growing up, your shame of this, and Jesus comes in, and then you just kind of go through life. Like, you just kind of do your thing. Did this affect you every day?
Yeah, I felt like the first years after becoming a believer were great. I had so much joy, but I think it was when I got married to my husband that a lot of stuff came out, because he grew up in a great family, like great home. I have the most amazing in-laws ever. But I had a completely different story. And so reconciling that, I mean, I don't know how non-believers stay married those first 5 years, because really there was some moments where it's like, okay, we're committed to commitment, but we don't like or love each other right now at all. Like, and that was, a lot of it was me. Like,
were you young when you got married?
Yeah. Oh, we were 21.
Babies.
Just 21.
You were babies.
We were babies. I don't even know how that.
Do you remember the first time you told your husband all of this?
Yes, I do.
Was this like early when you were dating?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
And were you scared?
I was terrified. Yeah.
Isn't that funny that it's not even like anything you did? You know what I mean? Like, I understand that feeling of that. I can't say this out loud, but like your story is like, it's like your family, like you didn't even, although I don't know if you were still dealing with the guilt of, I should have been there. But how did your husband react when you told him?
Just like Sarah. I mean, he's like, it's you. That's your story. Like, I love all of you, which I mean, then I knew I was going to marry him. But
Right.
I think I had a lot of insecurity thinking, but I'm not like your mom, you know? And my mom was not like your mom. So I think I had a lot of insecurity in like, why do you like me? I've not been a Christian my whole life. I don't even know. Like we joke, he sings like little church camp songs with our kids, and he's like, join in. And I'm like,
I don't know this.
Heathen as a child. I don't know what you're singing right now.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of, we joke about it now, but I think those first few years were really hard. Yeah. Just trying to figure out what it means to be a wife, what it means to later be a mother. And that was a whole different issue. And yeah, it's just been a growing process for sure.
Because the struggle for you, I can imagine, is you have no point of reference.
Yeah.
You didn't see a mom who was sober. Yeah. And you saw her in her lowest of lows and self-destruct all the way to death. And so you didn't see this wife picture either.
No.
You know, because she was divorced from your dad and then separated. And so I'm sure you brought a lot of that in.
Yeah.
And then married into like this amazing family.
Oh,
you're like, are you
so
sure
great.
This is what you want?
I'm like, are you sure? Like, yeah.
That's hilarious.
But my sister-in-laws are awesome. And we kind of all have our own stories. Yeah. And so.
Are they all Kampman boys?
Yeah.
There's no girl. Okay.
3 Kampman boys.
Okay. Okay, friends, I know this is such a hard story. It is, but I am still so proud of her for being so brave. And there's some good stuff ahead. Before we get to the rest of her story, I want to thank our sponsors. Our first sponsor for today is HelloFresh. There are so many things I love about HelloFresh. One of them is that all of the ingredients that they send you come pre-measured in handy labeled meal kits, so you know which ingredients go with which recipe. And for someone like myself who is not a seasoned chef, who doesn't enjoy cooking at the end of the day, that right there is probably my number one favorite thing. It's delivered right to your doorstep in a recyclable, insulated packaging. HelloFresh offers a wide variety of chef-curated recipes that change weekly. You guys, there's 3 different plans you can choose from: classic, veggie, and family. And I want to let you know, I've gone back and forth between all of them. The classic is just your classic. It has meat, fish, and produce. Veggie, obviously, it's vegetarian with plant-based proteins. And then family is quick and easy meals with all the yum flavor worthy the whole family will love. I told you guys last week when Aaron was on the show that I loved HelloFresh so much because of the simplicity. When I'm cooking in the kitchen, I like it to be simple, but we want good food. And so with simplicity of the HelloFresh is that it's not going to take all night because they usually take around 30 minutes. There's a lot of one-pot recipes, which make life just so much easier if you're like me when your kids have practice or piano lessons or whatever it might be. The simplicity of the meals is a big deal for me. One of the favorite things I've made with them recently is their risotto, because risotto is one of my favorite meals, but it is a hard meal to cook, and HelloFresh makes it so simple for me. HelloFresh, thank you for that. Hey guys, right now, HelloFresh is giving you $30 off your first week. Visit HelloFresh.com and enter promo code JamieIvey30. That's $30 off your first week, which right now around the holiday season might not be a bad idea to try because life just is about to get crazy, people. You know what I mean? HelloFresh.com, enter the promo code JamieIvey30. Guys, I also want to tell you about my new book, If You Only Knew. It releases in January of 2018. In this book, I share my story and how I began to believe the truths that God says about us as his children. It's vulnerable, it's real, it's raw. I think I'm kind of funny in it sometimes. I know it's only November and January seems like it's forever away, but you know it's not, right? Right now, you can pre-order this book. Head on over to ifyouonlyknewbook.net. Place your order and then enter into the giveaways that you can get for basically just pre-ordering the book. Everyone that pre-orders this book before it releases on January 30th receives a 20% off coupon to Waterloo Style, which they make my favorite feather earrings. And you're going to get an entry to win a weekend away at Green Acres, which is a glamping retreat center right outside of Austin that my husband and I co-own with some friends of ours. Okay, friends, back to the show. And get ready, because there's some good stuff ahead in Abbie's story. Okay, so this summer, you pull out your great, what'd you call it?
The crash box.
The crash box. Have you had that crash box since you were 13?
Yeah, pretty soon after my aunt gave it to me. Yeah.
Your mom's sister.
My mom's sister.
What an insightful thing of her to create this, to give to you, because
she's amazing.
It would seem like your first thought might be like, let's just forget that this happened. Mm-hmm. we don't want to dwell on this. But I think there is something to actually remembering everything, And so she gives you the crash box. You pull it out this year, just like every other year. June 19th.
June 19th is
pull
the
it
date.
out just like every other year. And this year you're reading it and you're thinking, wait, I have the internet. It's 2017.
Right.
I can find Josh. I can find the family. And so you had a crazy idea.
I would say it was like a spur of the moment, crazy.
Did you tell your husband or did you just
I did not
act?
tell him.
That's spur of the moment. Did you not tell him because it just happened so fast or because
he wasn't home?
Okay, yeah.
And it was one of those moments where I was acting before I was thinking, I think, in a good way. Sometimes that can be bad.
Right.
But, I decided to it took me about an hour, but I found the 3 people I really wanted to find.
You were like private detective over here.
I know, you can find everything on the internet.
I know, my
really
girlfriend
terrifying.
Amy, like if she sees somebody, she's like, I'm gonna find them on Facebook. And she does.
I know, it scares me a little bit. But no, I wanted to find the sheriff who investigated the accident. I wanted to find the widow of Stephen, the man who died in the other car. And I wanted to find Josh because my family had tried for so many years. Well, not so many years, a couple of years to find him.
Yeah.
I found the sheriff and Carla, the widow, right away. It took a little longer to find Josh. I found his wife, actually. And so I messaged all 3 of them on Facebook. Yeah.
It was so crazy.
Yeah. Well, and I thought when you're not friends with people on Facebook, I thought, okay, it's going to go to their spam folder.
For sure.
They might never see it.
For sure. And so you did it thinking, what are the odds?
Yeah.
This is probably just another, useless search.
Yep.
And then how long was it?
3 days.
3 days. Did you tell your husband when he got home?
Once they contacted me, yeah.
Did you forget or did you just like think it's not going to happen?
I didn't think it was
going
to happen. I didn't think it was going to happen. Mm-mm.
So you open your Facebook. There's a message.
Yeah,
and it's from who first?
Carla.
Carla.
Yeah. I was shaking.
What did you say in the message? Are you like, hey, my name's
No, I was respectful.
Because are you thinking this too? They may not want to hear
absolutely.
from the woman who was in the car that changed my life forever.
Right.
Okay.
Yes. I think I said something a little different to each of them, but Carla in particular was the one.
Are we looking at 17 years ago?
18.
Okay,
yeah,
18 years ago.
18 years ago. I just said something like, this is Abbie Kampman. You may not know who I am, but 18 years ago, my mom was responsible for taking the life of your husband through a car accident. And I said, this may not even be you. I could be totally wrong, so just disregard. But I just wanted to say I'm sorry on behalf of my family. And she got back to me.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was a beautiful response. She said, thank you for getting in touch with me. I mean, you could hear the emotion in her email, just even saying like, I was crying when I first read your message. Yes, that's me. Thank you for getting in touch with me. She said, what she did say was she said, can I call you? I want to call you. So we set up a time to talk and she called me.
I bet you were so nervous.
I was terrified. And I have 4 boys at home. It's the summer. And so I'm like, how do I keep them away so I can have this conversation? And so she called me. I called her a few days later and we talked for over an hour. Yeah, it was amazing. And she's wonderful. She's also a believer. And she was very young at the time that it happened too. She was in her low 20s, very young, newlywed woman. And she said that, and her dad was in the car too. Mm-hmm. So her dad survived and he broke so many bones and had to heal for that whole summer afterwards. So she was not only going through losing her husband, but helping her dad heal physically. And she just told me everything about how she felt and what she went through. And she moved away for a little while just to process. And when she moved away, she met a new man and ended up getting married. And his birthday, actually her second husband's birthday, is the day of their deaths, June 19th. Yeah. So she said, now we celebrate that day instead of,
Oh my gosh. That's like,
I know. But, and then she ended up moving back home after they got married and now lives in St. Louis. And we hope one of my dear friends is moving to St. Louis. And so I told Carla, I'm like, well, I have a really good reason to come see you. So we're going to get together.
That's amazing.
Soon. Yeah.
And then you found Josh.
I found Josh. Yeah. I found his wife. She's so sweet. They have a little boy now. And yeah, we've only communicated through Facebook, but I feel like from the communication with him, he always felt very burdened that he didn't do enough. At the time that this happened, he was driving alongside the car. It was kind of
which is dangerous as well.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So he said that the first time,
in danger. And then it was before cell phones were really kind of a big deal. So he had pulled off of the interstate to call someone, at a
payphone?
At I think a gas station.
Doesn't that sound like so old now?
Yeah, I know. To tell them what, someone's driving the wrong direction. Yeah. And when he pulled back on the interstate, he came up on the crash. So he saw right before and right after. And he was one of the people that got out to like help with the bodies and give a statement and all of those things. So, yeah.
And then did the sheriff, did you find him?
I did.
And how was that?
He's been wonderful. This was one of the very first fatality accidents he had investigated in his career. And he said, he's like, I've had flashbacks of looking at your sister's bodies for years. Because at the time he was so young, he had never experienced something like that before. And now that he has children of his own, and he only lives a few hours away from me. So we're going to get together soon too. But he called me and we talked for over an hour, and he was so kind because he went back up into his files and found every piece of information because he saved everything from all his reports that he'd ever written, and just tried to give me all the possible information he could from memory and from his report. And he got me in touch with the person that sent me the copy of the accident report and the photos of the bodies. So I got all of that.
Did you want that?
I did. Yeah. I wanted everything that was out there.
Was that this summer?
It was this summer,
Yeah,
yes.
that you got the accident report and the bodies, the pictures.
Yeah.
How was that, looking at that?
It took a little while to get it. And then the accident report came first. They had to, because it was 99, they had to, there were negatives. So they had to go get copies of the negatives. So the photos took a little bit longer to get there. So it was in pieces. I got the accident report first. And that was hard because it talks a lot about the injured and the drivers. But when it came to the fatalities, my mom and sisters were just a number. In the report, it was just like 5 fatalities, but it describes the drivers because they were the ones in charge of the vehicle. And so that was really hard, just thinking about my mom and sisters being seen as a number. And I had to process through that, thinking when I hear of large numbers of people that die, I just think it's a number. I don't really process that was someone's mom or sister or wife. So that was hard. But then also the accident report has interviews of people who stopped to help. And we had always heard, my family, that someone pulled, one of my sisters was ejected from the vehicle. The other one was pulled from the car by someone who had stopped. And that saved her body from burning because the car caught on fire. And so I had always wondered who did that, And so when I got the accident report, it has 5 or 6 people that they interviewed that were at the scene. And one of them was this man named Wayne and his wife Lynn, and their statements are in there. And they drove and had stopped once they saw the dust, and once they stopped, their lights shone on a body, and it was my sister's body
that had been thrown
from the vehicle. And so I actually got in touch with him a little bit too, because I was going for everyone at this point. And he said, I was a first responder, but I was off duty. And my wife and I were just on our way home, and we saw it happen. And so I immediately, once we stopped our car and saw the body, we got out just to try to help and see what we could do. And we ended up pulling one of your sisters from the car. But she had already
Passed.
been dead.
Yeah. What has the healing been like since the summer? Do you think that getting in contact with these people was like one of these final things to really help you heal? I'm not suggesting that you're healed, that you're ever going to be healed from this. But it sounds to me as though it was kind of monumental this summer with finding the people.
Yeah.
You think it was like this missing piece for you?
I think so. I think it allowed me to actually make it real. I think for so many years, I just kind of had put up walls and kind of just hadn't dealt with it. You know, I've cried more this summer than I ever have. And I'm not really a crier, but I can't stop. And I think it's good because I think there were feelings I needed to feel. And that's why I got the photos, the accident photos, because I didn't see them before they died. And my mom was cremated, so I didn't see her. And I just said, I need to see the results of her choices. I need to see that final picture because that's what happened. That's what it led to. And I needed to see that. My husband was just like, why would you ever want to see that? And the accident photos are on a CD, but they gave you a little thumbnail sheet. And I've only looked at the thumbnails. I have not been able to take the CD out and look at the full-blown pictures, but the thumbnails themselves are in full color. And just to look at, you know, her bloodied body, I mean, it was heartbreaking. I mean, I think I needed to see the brokenness and the pain before I could really heal myself.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you've really struggled with sharing your story. The shame that you felt early on, the guilt you felt at 13 when this happened. What is it like today? I mean, you're obviously sharing your story with me and everyone that's listening.
Yes, it's crazy.
Are you a little more comfortable with it?
Yeah, I am.
Why?
Because I think it can help someone. I think if I think of it like someone can be helped from this, or someone might not feel as alone, or even if it helps someone reach out to the other. You know, I was just talking to my sister-in-law this morning about anytime something happens where it's a car accident and you read about it, I'm always thinking about the family of the person that caused it. Or, you know, is anyone reaching out to them? Like, who's reaching out to them? Because they're broken too. You know, I think with even the shootings in Las Vegas recently, and they interviewed his brother, the shooter's brother, and he's just like, I had no idea. Like, I just didn't know. And I think about him and just people like that, their lives are now marked by someone else, that they didn't choose that, but it's not our natural response to go to that person. It's to go to the person that, so I guess just those people knowing that there's healing that can come from sharing your story and from reaching out to people that are
on the other side.
On the other side.
Because the reality of it is that your mom and the driver, but your mom caused a very tragic event. And that is something that could be labeled of you, you know, that was my mom, you know, and I can understand, not completely, but in a small way of how that would feel. Now, you became a Christian in high school after this. What does your faith look like through everything, from your journey, through your healing, for dealing with shame, to now feeling like I want to share my story? What has faith played a role? How has your faith played a role in that?
Oh, goodness. It's been everything. It's been a journey, though. I feel like at first, when I first became a believer, I was all about doing everything right. Like like someone who's been a Christian their whole life. Like, I need to have a quiet time and I need to do this. And I was very formulaic about it.
Check off all the boxes. Yeah.
And I just felt so much joy being taken from me, just feeling like I had to operate a certain way. And I think now I just talk to God a lot, you know? It's just become like a daily, constant thing, to just talk to him and to pray. And just be real with him. Like if I'm struggling, if I'm angry about something, if I'm reading the Bible and I don't understand something, I get angry and I ask him. And I think it's okay to do that. I think it's okay to like struggle through your faith and your questions, because I don't think we're ever going to arrive until we die, you know? And I think if you're constantly struggling with questions and asking why and allowing God to teach you through those questions, I think that's where we learn the most.
Were you ever mad at him?
Yeah.
About your childhood and your mom and all that?
I was mad about my sisters. I think my mom, I knew it could always happen, and I knew she made choice after choice.
I mean, you immediately thought that when you saw your dad.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But I was so angry about my sisters, and I still struggle with when children die, you know, or they're sex trafficked or something like that. I just think, why? Like, why a child, you know? But I know that he has purpose in everything.
Abbie, your story is, I mean, it's maybe everyone's crying that's listening. They've been crying for like an hour. No. But again, I'm so proud of you. And we just met an hour ago, but I'm so proud of you because I can see the way that God has totally brought you to a place of, you'll deal with this forever. This will never not be a part of your story. It's going to be there forever. Yeah. But God is a redeemer. And God has redeemed your life for good. And you're not just Abbie, whose mom, you know, was in a tragic accident and caused the death of her daughters. There's more. There's more to who you are. And I think that your story, people are going to relate on so many levels. Even just walking through like the hardest seasons. Like I told you before we started recording, man, it's just, life is so hard. And although some of us will not have our loved one die in a tragic accident like that. Yeah. We're all going to walk through stuff that is just so tragic and so hard. And I'm thankful for the way that you're walking through it now. Yeah.
I think it's those seasons that we grow the most. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. This is the hardest transition ever of like, hey, what are you loving these days? Right. But I do want to ask you this before we go on to what you're loving and what you're reading. Have you told your boys about this?
Yes.
And tell us the ages of them real quick.
So we have 4 boys, 8, 6, 4, and almost 2.
Okay. They're little. They're tiny.
Yeah.
Okay. So have you told them about this?
Our 8-year-old, our oldest, I mean, he knows that my mom is not in the picture. So, and we have a lot of different family. My mom's sister will visit sometimes. So it's kind of confusing. But yes, we've been very honest about, you know, she drank alcohol, too much of it, and she caused an accident, or was in an accident that caused her to die. Yeah.
I'm sure as they grow, there's a lot more.
Yeah.
Yes. Age appropriate is what we say all the time. Age appropriate. Yeah. They have no need to know right now what you endured as a child, but one day, you know, it'll be age appropriate, and you know.
I'm always amazed too at the questions that they ask and how they respond. Like they're just, a lot of times they're really insightful. Children are, and yeah, I mean, I just think it's been good. It's been good for me. I don't want to hide things from them, but
that's awesome. Yeah. Okay. So what are you loving these days?
Oh gosh. Well, I talked about This Is Us.
Yes.
And you know what? I'm not a TV watcher, really, which is kind of funny. And my husband would love me to be, but This Is Us and Parenthood were both recommended to me by my friends. And I always think there's got to be some writer that has struggled with all of these things, because they're almost, and then I read the Parenthood, one of the writers had an autistic child, or the director, which made it more real. I mean, then you know that these are people and these are real stories just told through characters. Yeah. But when I watch This Is Us, I mean, I have friends who've adopted children and they're like, yes, like I've felt all of these feelings. And, you know, with the foster child having a mom, it's just powerful.
It like gets to your emotions.
It's powerful.
I know. I've cried through all of them.
Losing a parent. Yes. And I just,
everything. Okay. So This Is Us.
This Is Us. My butterfly bracelet.
I noticed it actually already.
It's Noonday.
Oh, I love it.
So I'm an original Noonday lover. I don't sell it. No, I don't sell it. Okay. But I have given them all my money.
Are those Noonday earrings?
Yes, they are. They're old.
And I have a Noonday necklace.
Yeah. So Jess Honegger was at our restaurant last night that we went out to eat too, but I was too
Did you say
nervous.
hi?
No.
Oh, you
because I'm
totally
like,
should
I don't want to
have.
be a fangirl, but
Where'd y'all eat?
Salty Sow.
Good restaurant.
Yeah.
Okay, your noonday.
My noonday bracelet,
butterfly
because
bracelet.
when I
love that.
saw it, I was, I've been going through this season where I just feel like what was ugly and earthly and broken in my life, and God just has wrapped himself around it and made it beautiful. And when I saw this, I was just like, I need to buy it because it's such a perfect picture of his grace. So I wear it all the time now. Okay. Yeah. My D group.
Are you in a D group?
I'm in a D group. Before Tara came on, we've been in our D group for almost 3 years now. My friend Liz started the first one in Des Moines, I think. And it's been transformational for my confidence in studying the word. I think I used to be a person that, and probably a lot of women are like this, like you feel like you need something like a study guide or something to approach the Bible.
Right.
And this was the very first time, you know, you open your Bible and you're supposed to read it and like,
I love it.
Decipher it. And I'm like, how do you do that?
Right.
Like, that's just impossible. But these 3 years, I mean, it's just been really given all of us in our study of women, just the power to understand the word together and through prayer and memorization and things like that. So her and Tara and Jen Wilkin are two amazing women that I just
They've
admire.
both been on the show. Tara Lee Cobble was on episode number 112, and she talks a lot about her D group. And then Jen Wilkin was also on episode number 14.
Yeah.
Forever ago. People will write in and be like, you should have Jen Wilkin on the show.
I've listened to that episode at least 2 or 3 times.
She has number 14. It's so good.
Her parenting tips, I'm just
write them down.
Just amazing.
Yes.
So D group, and then our husbands all saw how amazing it was for us, and now my friend's husband Marcus just started the first men's D group in Iowa, and my husband's in it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so
awesome.
This Is Us, your butterfly noonday bracelet, and your D group.
D group.
Those are 3 amazing things.
Yeah.
Are you a reader?
I'm a huge reader.
What are you reading?
Huge reader. Well, I'm currently reading your book.
Thank you.
I am. I'm on your launch team.
Thank you.
So good. And I just finished The Hate You Give.
Oh,
you need to have her on. She hasn't been on, has she?
No. I read it this summer and cried.
It blew my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was like, yeah, I've done these things, and I felt terrible.
Yeah.
And so anyway, it's funny.
So it's a
good.
fictional book,
Yes.
but it is fiction, but you're going to see some things that we've seen in real life, obviously. And this is a lot of people's real life story.
Yes.
I mean, you know, it's a fiction book,
Mind
but it's not really.
Uh-huh.
And I highly recommend it. I always like put a little caveat in it that there's some language.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah,
it is life.
It is.
And there's language in life. So
yeah. And then I finished this a little while ago, but Jesus Outside the Lines, you heard of that, by Scott Sauls?
Yes.
I'm giving it to everyone for Christmas.
Oh, that's
because
so good.
It's, he doesn't hold back on all the major issues, but he does it with such grace and sharing, like, it's a lot of political issues, but how to approach the Bible and understand things like abortion and things that we a lot of times fight with each other about on one side or the other. But he says, actually, a lot of us we're fighting over the same concept. If you look at the way Jesus lived, he would have been a little bit this way and a little bit this way. And I just really appreciate how he approached explaining a lot of that.
You are not the first to recommend that book on this show. And Scott Sauls is a friend of Aaron and I's, and he has a new book that just came out called From Weakness to Strength, which is like a leadership book. But we're big fans of Scott Sauls.
I listen to his sermons and things online.
Yeah. Okay, well, great. I love everything you're loving and reading. Thanks for reading my book.
It's great. I'm loving it.
So appreciate that. Abbie, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
It was a real honor to have you. Well, first, be the first person to have an interview in my new studio.
I love it in here. It's neat.
That's an honor, but also just to trust me and my listeners with your story. And so thanks for being brave. Thanks for going first.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for being here. Oh my gosh, you guys, wasn't that such a great conversation with Abbie? I know I've said it like 7 times already, but I'm so proud of her for the bravery that it took for her to sit down with me in my office and share her story. Please tell me that you are moved about sharing your own story with those around you. Friends, I want you to know that your story matters, that you matter, and that what God is doing in your life matters. I hope that after listening to Abbie and you experiencing the bravery that she had in sharing her story, that you get a piece of that as well. Also, something really cool happened to me while I was in Guatemala. I got to meet the artisan that makes the butterfly bracelet that Abbie mentioned that she loves so much. I had shared this story with my friend Jessica before we traveled there, and I had the opportunity to share the story with the woman who actually makes those bracelets. It was one of my highlights of the trip by far. I'm going to put a link to that butterfly bracelet in the show notes so that you can see it. And maybe you know someone yourself who needs a little fresh hope in their life, and maybe this would help that. Also, you guys, her book recommendations, great books to read over the holiday season. Go ahead and get you some of those. Friends, today's show is edited by Chris with Podshaper, and the music is from Jason Poe. I hope you are enjoying your Thanksgiving holiday if you live here in America. And we will be back next week. My guest will be Kat Lee. Kat and I have been friends for a while. And in fact, I call her my podcasting mother. Kat loves encouraging women to get the best out of their days. And we chat about that next week. Guys, don't forget, if you're looking for holiday gifts, check out episode number 168, where we put before you 9 different companies that we think are worth you spending your money towards this holiday season. My friend Melanie Schenkel joins me on that show. And not only is it informative about these companies, you know we laugh a lot because Melanie's hilarious and we had a great time together. Friends, enjoy your week. Share the show with a girlfriend and have a happy hour with a friend. I will see you guys next week with my friend Kat Lee.